はい、では続きをやっていきたいと思います。今回のエディスのお兄さんルイス・フィンチの物語なんですが、こちらがとってもですね心を打つ物語なので、ぜひぜひご覧いただけると嬉しいです。それでは始めていきましょう。ドーン・フィンチ宛ての手紙ですね。
Dear Mrs. Finch, as Lewis's psychiatrist, I can understand your desire for an explanation. As I see it, the trouble began in January, shortly after we convinced your son to seek treatment for substance abuse. Newly sober, I believe Lewis first noticed the monotony of his daily life. He kept working at the canyon, but he withdrew past himself. In our sessions, I saw the same behavior. His mind began to wander. I asked him to describe it. He said he started small, imagining a labyrinth. He'd feel his way about. Then something moved. Bats. And toads. And things that have not names. He knew it was all in his head. But he took it very seriously. I had hoped he'd find himself. But he found something more.
あれですね、私がよく仕事中にやってる
I worried about him.
妄想と一緒ですね。
Daydreaming at the cannery.
定期中それ怖いですよね。
But he said Lewis had become a model employee. Methodical, tireless, focused. Like a whole new Lewis. So I let him go on.
めちゃめちゃ単調な工場の作業とかやったことありますか？実際なんかすごく
I
ね、
even encouraged him.
なんだろう、こういう妄想をしちゃうんですよね。
It seemed very promising at first. He told me he'd made a new friend. On the edge of a city he named Lewis-topia. He built the city up slowly, brick by brick. Then he made musicians. And songs for them to play. He talked about starting a band. And he was always humming something. Every day his imagination grew stronger. He no longer spoke at the cannon.
わかります。口を聞くことがなくなってしまった。
But his chopping was as reliable as ever. Then one day it struck him that all the cheering crowds, even the stones under his feet, were all in his imagination. So he could do whatever he wished. He held an election for mayor. And he won. They begged him to stay, but his mind was already wandering. It became a game for him.
ユーストピアを出発しましたね。旅。
He'd conquer a city, then immediately push on. New Louisville. St. Louis.
セントルイス。
He started drifting away from our reality.
こうなってきたらこっちの方が現実になってきますよね。どっちが現実なのかなと。
Minneapolis.
やっぱ楽しくて楽
Until
しく
one day
て
he forgot to go home from the cannery.
工場から帰
Even
宅
as
す
his
るのを
mother
忘れた。
pleaded with him, part of Lewis kept sailing on.
そうなんですよ。楽しくて楽しくてもう時間が一瞬で過ぎるんですよね。もう仕事でちょっと暇な時はよく妄想してるんで。
In Louisburg, he heard rumors of a handsome queen. The queen was on her own quest for sinister serpents. He followed the sound of her
エレキシタール。
electric sitar. His chase led him to a golden palace east of the sun and west of the moon. Even then, his logic remained sound. He knew the world was all in his imagination.
我らの世界は想像の賜物だと分かっていました。頭が理解してるんですね、ちゃんと。これで想像であると。
But he was so proud of having created it.
クリエイターになるべきだったね、ルイスはね。
In his own eyes, he'd become something greater than a king.
おっとっと。
For someone who'd never known success in the real world, I think it was overwhelming. And then it struck him that the real Lewis was not the one chopping salmon, but the one climbing the steps of a golden palace.
本当のルイスは鮭を切っている人物じゃなく、黄金の宮殿に通ずる階段を登る自分だと気づいた。まるで仕事中の私じゃないですか。私も本物の私は職場でバカみたいにくだらないことやってる自分じゃなく、こうやってゲーム実況をしている自分だと思ってますよ
My
ね。
imagination is as real as my body, he told me. It was hard to argue with him.
ゲーム機がありますね。中華のお菓子がルイスのロッカーですね。
He began to forget the world we know.
完全に帰りし始めたんですね、現実から。すごい、なんだろう、カクカクなんだけど大丈夫？
I think it pained him to remember Lewis, the cannery worker.
自分の格好がわかんないな。これは現実ですからね。
He began to despise the man with a royal contempt.
切ってすらいないじゃないですか。
I still thought I could save him. Even after he said he was being crowned king over all the lands of wonder. The palace would be packed with his companions. Including the wise Calico who'd insisted on advising him.
Mori.
His queen waited, holding his crown. There was only one thing left to do. Bend down his head. I think you know. Mrs. Finch, your son was a kind man who will be missed by all of us who knew him.
My brother was really cool. I wish you could have met him.
私すごくやっぱりこのルイスに感情移入をしてしまいましたね。初めて会った時は生きてほしかったなと。
On the way back from Lewis's funeral, my mom told me to start packing. She waited until the day before we left to tell Edie. I'm not sure if she wanted to make it easier or harder.
こっちか。これは罠ですね。ミッシング。ミルトかな。
I wish we'd stayed. But I understand why we left. My mom ended up leaving everything behind.
ドーンの部屋なんですね。
What happened that night had been coming for a long time. Maybe it should have come sooner.
エリスの部屋に向かっております。
But it had to end one way or another. All that's left now is to tell you about that last night.
おしゃれな部屋ですね。
That whole last day, Edie just watched us pack and didn't say a word. Until supper, when she raised her glass and said,
To our final night together, and all our final nights apart.
Grandma, you know what I said about alcohol. Some of your medications are very specific.
I left a present for you in the hallway. Why don't you go open it? The grown-ups have to argue now.
I'm sorry, you're right. We're all leaving tomorrow. Let's just enjoy our last...
I'm not leaving.
Edith, you're excused.
この状態のまま下の食卓の上の様子が変わってなかったですもんね。
the power had been shut off that morning, but Edie always had plenty of candles. When my mom sealed the library, I don't think she knew about the other entrance. Or that Edie had a key to it.
That thing you're afraid of isn't going to end when you leave the house. Edith has a right to know these stories.
My children are dead because of your stories. I think it's best if Edith and I leave tonight. We'll have the nursing home send a van for you in the morning, okay?
Edith Finch.
Dear Edith, there's so many stories I wish I could tell you, but there's only time for one. This is about what happened on the night you were born. That night, the tide went way, way out. It was the first and last time I ever saw the old house aground. There'd been an earthquake out in the middle of the ocean. They called it the lowest tide in 1,000 years. God, it smelled awful. You know, I've seen that house every day of my life.
津波の前は凄まじい引き潮になるって言いますよね。
But I never thought I'd go back to it. When the fog rolled in, I lost my way. I got turned around. I started seeing things. Things I'd forgotten had ever existed. But when I saw them, they felt like old friends. That night, a lot of things came back to me. Or maybe I came back to them. Things I can't explain, but that I need you to try and...
Edith, what are you doing in here?
It's mine!
Edith!
Mom, you're gonna rip it! Let go! I kicked and screamed, but Mom dragged me to the car. I never saw Great Grandma Edie again. The next morning, the band came to pick her up, but she was already gone.
おそらく薬とアルコールの飲み合わせ
After
で
that, we moved around a lot.
亡くなってしまっていたと。
We both tried to make the best of it. A few years went by. My mom didn't like to talk about it, but she started getting sick a lot. She got better for a while, and then she didn't. And then I was alone. The last Finch left alive. Until I found out about you. I'm still not sure what to tell you about all this. If we lived forever, maybe we'd have time to understand things. But as it is, I think the best we can do is try to open our eyes and appreciate how strange and brief all of this is. This journal was supposed to be for you, but now I hope you'll never see it. I just want to meet you and tell you all these stories myself. But I guess if you're reading this now, things didn't work out that way. This is where your story begins. I'm sorry I won't be there to see it. It's a lot to ask, but I don't want you to be sad that I'm gone. I want you to be amazed that any of us ever had a chance to be here at all. Good luck.
Edith エリスは亡くなってしまっていたんですね。エリスの息子でフィンチ家の本当の最後の生き残りが、最初に船で聖火ではないか、フィンチ家の残された家に帰ってきたと。フィンチ家の人間は皆呪いと言いますか、みんな短命に終わってしまうと、旅立ってしまうと、そういう呪いにかけられていて、呪いから脱却するためにオーディンが家を船に乗せてね、渡ってきたわけですが、それでも呪いは続いたと。おそらく まあ、作中でも語られてましたけど、呪いというのは、まあ、存在してるかどうかはわからないですけど、その呪いを考えるあまり、信じるあまり、現実としてしまっていたと、引き寄せてしまっていたと。人々の気持ちっていうのはやっぱり強いものですからね。すごくなんかありきたりっていうか、差し障りのないこと言ってる感じしますけどこの少年が、名もない少年が、どのように生きて、どれだけ生きれるかっていうのもわからないですが、可能なら、知っていったフィンチ家のね、皆さんの分も、全員分生きたらもう何千回ってなっちゃいますけど、生きれることをね、願いたいなって思いますね。やっぱ何よりも、やっぱルイスですよね。個人的に本当ルイスの話っていうのは、なんだろう、自分が思ってた、仕事中によく考えてた妄想と、すごく通ずるところがあって、暇だからなんか考え事したらすぐ時間過ぎるなっていう。それがどんどん加速していくと、入れ替わってしまうというね。こちらで1エンドとなります。すごく身につまされるというか、そういう思いがあったので、このゲームをですね、実況したいなと思って作らせていただきました。ここまでね、最後まで見てくださった方は本当にありがとうございます。そして、このゲームをですね、作られた皆様、本当にお疲れ様でした。素晴らしいゲームだったと思います。それではまた次回の動画でお会いできることを心待ちにしております。この動画がね、いいと思った方は、ぜひぜひ、チャンネル登録と高評価いただけますと、モチベーションにつながります。それでは、お疲れ様でした。